Hey YouTube, Scott Pad from Scott Pad's Comic Treks coming at you again, once again, with yet another DVD and Blu-ray acquisition video where I sit down, I show you what I picked up on Blu-ray and DVD, usually for a damn good price, and I talk about the movie a little bit. I hope you enjoy it. But before we do any of that shinola, let's talk about this. Happy 4th of July to all my US YouTube buddies out there, and to all the guys over in Europe. You're probably having a better time than we are. We're locked down in our houses. You are too. But stay safe if you're going to go to a party. Wear some face coverings. But stay in, read a comic, do something. So without further ado, we're going to look at what I picked up on Blu-ray and DVD. And we're going to start off with a movie called Hunter Killer. Now, I'm a sucker for these Hunt for Red October submarine type movies, and this is definitely one of those. It came out about a year and a half ago. It definitely is a kind of a pattern after a Hunt for October, where they bring in a Russian captain to kind of work with the American crew and to solve the catastrophe of the hour. This stars Gerard Butler, who you guys all remember from all those White House Down movies, and he was the Phantom of the Opera, and he's done 300, and he's okay here. I mean, he's definitely gone into action hero mode with all his films. And, this isn't a stretch for him. But if you like action, the last 45 minutes of this movie, man, oh my God. Now, some of the CGI in it is a little questionable in parts, but just the overall battles at the end of the film, they're pretty good. Especially if you have a decent system, you get Dolby Atmos in your system. This is going to rock those subwoofers, let me tell you. It's going to work it out. This can be had on Blu-ray for under $10 now on 4K Blu-ray, and way under $10 if you want to pick it up on regular Blu-ray. This has to making a featurette. It's a pretty stock disc, but the image is really good, and as I said, that audio fucking rocks, man. If you're a sucker for action movies, sub movies, war movies, you'll like Hunter Killer. Give it a try. All right, next. One of my favorite genres, of course, as everybody knows, is kaiju movies. Kaiju stands for monster in Japanese. And, of course, the biggest monster of them all is Godzilla. And my favorite era of Godzilla films was the Showa era, which happened in the 60s and through early 70s. That's for films like, Godzilla Raids Again, Godzilla versus Gigan, Godzilla versus King Kong. You get the idea. Well, the pre-ultimate movie and one of everybody's favorites and available now on Blu-ray is Destroy All Monsters. Destroy All Monsters is just that. It's a monster fest. Every monster is in this film. This was intended to be Godzilla's last movie of the Showa era, but they extended it with a few more extra films. So they were going out with a bang, and of course they didn't go out with a bang. This has some stock footage in it, but it's mostly new footage. And this is bringing in aliens, bringing in Monster Island, bringing in Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, you name it, they're in this flick. This is on Blu-ray from Tokyo Shock. Now, let me just talk to you about a couple things. Criterion released a set of all the Godzilla movies. I think there's like 18 Godzilla movies in the list. And with new Blu-ray transfers come down from 4K sources. They look good. I didn't pick that one up yet. I may pick it up eventually. But the problem with that release is they didn't license any of the English audio tracks, just in Japanese. And, I do like watching my movies with the original actors because, of course, with the dubbing, you get that, lip sync problem. You get some of the funny dialogue. But that's kind of the charm of some of these movies, too. I grew up watching these things on TV and watching them in English, watching them dubbed. So I would like to see that soundtrack included in that set. It's a damn shame that Criterion, who's usually good at licensing a bunch of stuff and really putting out the best version of the films they can put out, didn't license that. One of the problems I have with it is a lot of times I love these Godzilla movies, but I've seen them a million times. I'll put these on while I'm doing something else, maybe while I'm reading a book, reading a comic, just, cleaning the house. And it's nice to be able to just, listen to it and then, look over whether it's a good scene you want to see. But of course, when it's in Japanese, you're going to watch the movie nonstop on the screen because you got to read the subtitles to see what's going on. So that's why it's nice to have both. This has both the English and the Japanese soundtrack. It's in the original aspect ratio. Fantastic movie. Destroy All Monsters. If you love or like or even remotely chuckle at a Godzilla movie, you owe it to have this in your collection. Destroy All Monsters. You can still get this for well under $20 on Blu-ray and cheaper on DVD. Another one that I picked up that is one of my all-time favorites. This got a release in the U.S. theaters in 1976. Of course, it premiered in a heavily edited version on NBC in 77 to 78, I believe, hosted by John Belushi, if you remember that, anybody out there, in a Godzilla suit. John Belushi was in a Godzilla suit, and they cut this movie down to like an hour. They just boiled it down to all the fights. But this is a goofy classic. This is really a great movie. Godzilla versus Megalon, also from Tokyo Shock, which means you're getting the English dub here, you're getting the Japanese dub, you're getting it in the original aspect ratio. Godzilla versus Megalon is that goofy movie that really is more of a Jet Jaguar movie, the Ultraman type clone that is in a lot of this flick. But Godzilla and his friends show up, and when they do, this has some of the longest fight scenes in any Godzilla movie. I would say the last at least third of the movie is a gigantic free-for-all wrestling match between the monsters and Jet Jaguar and Godzilla. And it is great. A lot of those funny scenes you see coming from Godzilla came from this movie. Godzilla versus Megalon. It does have one of those annoying Japanese kids in it in very short shorts for some reason. But if you can get by that, I really recommend this movie. Godzilla versus Megalon. Classic stuff on Blu-ray and, of course, DVD. Now, when Godzilla returned to Japan in 2014, I believe it was, 2015, after the American original Godzilla movie in 2014, Toho, the studio who makes Godzilla movies, wanted to reboot the franchise. And they wanted kind of a semi-serious look at Godzilla. And this was a very polarizing movie. Some people like it, some people hate it, some people in between with it. I kind of really like it, but I can see where people might not like it. Of course, I'm talking about Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla starts off with, it's almost, if the original Godzilla movie was Tokyo's response to the atomic bomb in Hiroshima, Shin Godzilla is the response to some of the Japanese handlings of some of the more recent disasters like the typhoons and other natural disasters. So this really has a heavy emphasis on Japanese culture, Japanese politics, government, how they handle things, and how would they handle something like Godzilla coming aboard ashore and wreaking havoc in the city. So a lot of it is talking. There's a lot of backboard politics in here, but it's still a fascinating movie. Godzilla in this starts off as basically like a reptilian slug and metamorphosizes into the later form that we see as Godzilla. And some of the scenes in this are really, really astounding. There's a scene where I think one of the early versions of Godzilla loses a hand, and the blood that comes out is caustic, and the damage that it does coming out of Godzilla is pretty explicitly shown, with people burning to death with the acidic blood, the radioactive blood. So I like this movie. This comes with English and a Japanese soundtrack. Also a digital copy. It has some special features on here, but not all that many. But Shin Godzilla, if you haven't seen a Godzilla movie other than the 60s stuff and the American stuff, try Shin Godzilla. You might like it. Next, thanks to Perry, who is doing a bunch of reaction videos. And he wanted to react to a Hitchcock movie. So if I was doing reaction videos, I said, shit, I'm going to fucking react to a Hitchcock movie? What do I react to? Do I react to The Birds? Fucking classic. Do I react to Vertigo? Again, another fucking classic. Psycho. Not Psychopath, Perry. Psycho. Classic. You can't get more classic than Psycho. No, I'm going to do Rope. Fucking what? Fucking Rope? Now, Rope is a fantastic movie, but it probably wouldn't be what I would do as a reaction video because for one, it's two dudes staying around in a room, 2 or 3 dudes. Not we would say heavy action here. you're reacting to two dudes standing around a room talking, you're going to go, here's my reaction. But Perry did it anyways. Because Perry did it, it renewed my interest in getting this film because it's kind of out of print. And maybe rumor has it that they are remastering a bunch of Hitchcock movies for 4K video. So maybe you'll see it in that bunch. I don't know. But I was able to pick up Rope on Blu-ray, a fairly decent price, and it has a bonus feature. It has a documentary on Rope, some photographs, trailer. Not a lot on here, pretty bare bones. But it's in. It's been digitally restored. It is a Hitchcock movie on Blu-ray, and those older movies really look phenomenal. The colors really pop on them. So thank you, Perry. Even though you probably did the wrong movie, you made the right choice for me. I picked up a copy of Rope for my collection, and thank you very much. Okay, next, another 4K Blu-ray. Well, a lot of people hate this movie. A lot of people hate it. Some people like it. I don't know anyone that loves it, but you can pick it up fairly cheap. And I thought the effects were okay. Yeah, I'm talking about Hellboy, the latest version of Hellboy, the Hellboy reboot. David Harbour takes up for the actor, God, the guy from the guy who was Beauty and the Beast, and the guy who was in Sons of Anarchy. I can't remember his name right now, but he picks up for him. They rebooted Hellboy, and I tell you, I watched this movie. Now, I only watched about half of it, but it's not because I hated the movie. I had to leave and go do something. But I said to myself, I want to finish it. And now this movie on 4K can be had for way under $10. Obviously, didn't do well, but the special effects are good. I thought the story was on par with the other. On par with the other Hellboy movies, and I thought David Harbour did an okay job as Hellboy. I didn't think he was bad at all. So this movie got kind of bad word of mouth, and it had a really bad trailer, and then people just made fun of it. And the internet got on it, Rotten Tomatoes got on it, and then it just bombed. But seriously, I've seen worse than this version of Hellboy, and for way under $10 on 4K Blu-ray, pick it up. It's got a digital copy. It's got Dolby Atmos. Uh, Not a bad flick. Give it another try. Hellboy. Movie that I never had in my collection, of course, and I'm a big kaiju fan. And the original version of this was a pretty decent movie. Was Pacific Rim. I guess this is probably the go-to 4K disc out there. If you want to demo a new 4K TV, if you want to demo a new 4K player, if you want just a movie that has awesome video and audio, this is probably the one people pick up. It used to be a pretty pricey disc when it first came out. You can get this way under $14 now on Blu-ray, digital HD Blu-ray and 4K. And this has a bunch of features on it, and it's got Dolby Atmos. It's got a digital copy, of course, HDR. The touting really makes the at-night scenes where they're battling the robots in the dark and through the weather really, really crisp. So if you like kaiju movies, if you like battling robot movies, Pacific Rim, they made a sequel to this, which I understand. I haven't seen it, but I understand was pretty bad. So stick with the original if you don't own it, or if you want to pick it up and upgrade to a Blu-ray, or pick up a 4K disc. I'd recommend Pacific Rim. Next movie I got on Blu-ray and got it out of the Walmart bin, pretty cheap, I think for under $5. But this is a movie I understand was very good. It's an indie film, and it stars one of my favorite actors that was in Roadhouse and Point Blank and a bunch of other movies. I think he was in Point Blank, wasn't he? Sam Elliott, of course. And this is The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. I don't know too much about the story other than the title. Pretty much it aptly describes what this movie is about. It's a fantasy movie set, I think, in World War II. I love Sam Elliott. I'm willing to give anything a try. Special feature rides. It had some featurettes on it. It's got some deleted scenes. Does not come with a digital copy, but you can get this at Walmart for around $5. And I heard this is a real good film. And I like kind of wacky, off the wall, avant garde movies. So I'm looking forward to watching this one Hitler, the man who killed Hitler, and then the Bigfoot. All right, next, a couple classics coming up next, and these can be scored pretty cheap now on 4K Blu-ray. And the first one is the 40th anniversary of this film. It is a classic in every sense, right up there with movies like Platoon, The Bridge on the River Kwai, Full Metal Jacket, Saving Private Ryan. All those movies, you have to mention this one with them, and that's Apocalypse Now. And Apocalypse Now has just been released in a 4K. We don't have fucking 40Ks yet. You might get 8K soon. No 40K, not yet. But this is 4K, which is really only 2K. But I'm not going to go into that. This is a 4K edition of Apocalypse Now. This is really a loaded disc. Not only does it have a new 4K transfer of what they're dubbing the final cut. Like all these movies come out like Blade Runner, the final cut. This is going to be the final cut, probably because the director here, who of course directed Francis Ford Coppola, is probably getting ready to shake off the mortal coil. But this is the final cut of Apocalypse Now, the way the director wants it. But of course, they've also included in 4K the original 1979 theatrical release, as well as the redo, which was another attempt by Francis Ford Coppola to redo the film. He's done it a couple times. Like George Lucas, he keeps tinkering with his movies. We'll have another video sometimes where I wish directors would just stop fucking with their movies. You know, if a movie is a classic and it came out in like the Blues Brothers or Caddyshack or Star Wars, Blade Runner, you name it, fucking leave it alone. It's a classic for a reason. And, you know, George Lucas, I know he didn't have those great CGI effects back in the 70s, but so what? I don't care. Leave it alone. But unlike George Lucas, he's not being a dick. He has put the original version of the movie on here. And that's why, you know, if you're going to fuck with your movie directors, as long as you put the movie on here, the original I saw in the theater, I'm cool with that. And they're giving me 3 versions of it for the same fucking price, which for this disc you can get way under $20, which is a fucking steal, because it does come with, I believe, a book in here detailing all the movie, and it also has it's a 6-disc set because it has all this on Blu-ray as well as 4K, and it's got documentaries, and it has the award-winning Heart of Darkness documentary on the film. Come on. But if you're gonna fuck with your movies directors, give me the original. But of course, you know, George Lucas doesn't. He fucks with his movies like E.T. and Star Wars, and he takes the old ones, sticks them in a vault, and you never see them again. That's pretty shitty. But Francis Ford Coppola, he's done it the right way. I can't recommend this movie. This along with like 2001, which I did in an earlier video. It's got to be in your library. It's a great film. You know, Dance with Wolves, The Great Escape. I can go on and on about videos that you should have in your library. This is definitely one of them. Apocalypse Now, the final cut on 4K Blu-ray, heavily recommended. Let me take a break here, and of course, it's an advertisement for Coors, the banquet beer. Okay. Alrighty then. Another classic that really has to be in, well, not everybody, because this movie isn't for everybody. But for the people who love this movie, get yourself a 4K Blu-ray and get this video, because you're going to love it on 4K. And it's a great deal. You get for under $15 now. And I'm talking about the Brian De Palma film with Al Pacino, Scarface. Everybody knows Scarface. Say hello to my little friend in 4K. I mean, I don't have to say much about this. This movie's notorious. It's classic. It's a great flick. I understand the 4K is pretty good on this. Like all older movies, you know, 4K. If the director does it right, it's gonna show the film grain more. I guess the recent versions of Star Wars, of course, they didn't want to show the film grain, so they digital noise reduction the whole thing to make it look like it's a movie that came out today, even though it's 40 fucking years old, which is stupid. They didn't do that here, so you're gonna get some film grain, but the colors will be better. The image will be better. 4K is always a little bit better. And then this has a 35th anniversary reunion with Al Pacino, Michelle Pfeiffer. Documentary is on here. It's got other deleted scenes. It's got documentaries, the world of Tony Montana, and that's not fucking enough. This has got the TV version of it. Now people might say, "What the fuck do I want to watch the TV version of fucking Scarface for?" Come on. Well, I'll tell you. Because the TV version, back in the 70s and 80s, when these movies had to be on TV, what they try to do with most movies, pad them out to a 3 hour running time. Like you have the Sunday night movie, and because they want to start at 8 and end by 11, they'll pad it with commercials, and sometimes they'll just take deleted scenes from the movie that wasn't the theatrical version and stick that in. They did it with Star Trek: The Motion Picture. They did it with a lot of James Bond movies. They did it with Close Encounters, so forth, so on. Other times they have to, because in the case of Scarface, they can't get away with showing a lot of that stuff on TV, so they have to tone it down and they have to put some extra scenes in there. So that's what this did. But there's some scenes that are memorable in the TV version, and it's a nice little extra to have that on here, along with everything else that's on here. So once again, I'm a fan of this movie. 4K, Ultra HD, Al Pacino, prime form, Scarface. Next, some classics coming in here, some cult classics. And this movie, I'm a sucker for horror movies. And I'm a real sucker for the genre of the horror host. When I was growing up, there was only 3 or 4 channels, and often local channels would have a science fiction or horror movie late at night, after 11:30, when the networks went, back then, were not showing anything. They'd have the late night movie, late night movie. They'd have the science fiction theater. They'd have horror movies, you name it. And of course, they had to have hosts. And a lot of stations did have horror hosts. Even today, Svengoolie on MeTV is picking up, the son of Svengoolie is picking up from Svengoolie, who did that in Chicago, and now it's syndicated. Of course, the first syndicated horror host, I would think, or one of the first at least, of course, is Elvira. Oh, Elvira. Everybody knows Elvira. And Arrow has put out probably her best movie, I would consider, was Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, on a Blu-ray. And like all other Arrow movies, special editions out the fucking ass. I mean, if you're a fan of the film, it's got a new scan of it. Of course, the movie's going to look phenomenal. But I can't even go over the amount of extras on here. This is redone from a 4K scan of the film, new audio, new commentaries, features, never before deleted scenes, archival material. I can't even go. They claim like 9 hours of extras on here. This movie was a hoot too. It had a lot of stars of the time: Jeff Conway, Suzanne Kellerman, Edie McClug, and a lot of cameos in this as well. So if you like Elvira, if you like campy movies, if you like horror hosts, Elvira, Mystery of the Dark, available from Arrow Video, great stuff. Look for that. Now, speaking of horror, in 1958, Hammer in England started to put out horror movies, their versions of the Universal films, what we had over here for Universal movies. All the big ones with the Dracula and the Wolfman, Frankenstein, Peter Cushing, of course, and Christopher Lee headlined that. And this is the very first, I believe, Christopher Reeve. No, it wasn't fucking Christopher Reeve. Christopher Lee Dracula movie. The Horror of Dracula was out in a Blu-ray edition from Warner Archives. And this is probably one of the best of the Dracula movies with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. I think they made like 7 or 8 of them. And, some of them are still coming out. Some of them I showed on some of my other videos. I love these Hammer movies. Hammer film is always up the violence, always up the gore, always up the sex that we could have here in the States. They really put that all on view, starting with this movie and then going through the 60s and 70s. These Warner Archive video releases look phenomenal. They've been fully restored. And if you're a fan of the genre, of Dracula, of Hammer, this is a good starting point. If you're not, The Horror of Dracula, this is one of the best Dracula movies going for Hammer Studios. My last movie, of course, is another 4K Blu-ray. Also can be had fairly cheap. I think you can get this under $10 now. And to say, well, this is a classic, and I think once again this is a very divisive film. Most people love it. Some people hate it. Some people just don't get it. Of course, Joel and Ethan Coen, who did Fargo, came up with their follow-up to that, and one of the classics of all time, The Big Lebowski, the dude himself, with Jeff Bridges, Steve Buscemi, John Goodman, and that great John Turturro scene with the bowling alley. There's so many good scenes in this movie. And this is out on 4K Blu-ray. You get a lot of bonus features on this discs. You get reunions. You get documentaries. You get photo albums. You get all sorts of stuff. It's a digital copies included. I love Big Lebowski. I love Fargo. I love most of the Coen Brothers movies. There's not too many that were misfires. Miller's Crossing, phenomenal. Barton Fink, I'm kind of iffy on, but even that I kind of enjoy to a certain extent. What else they do? The Brother, Brother, Where Art Thou there with George Clooney, phenomenal. I mean, they make just very satirical, off-the-wall movies. Big Lebowski's a classic. If you don't have it on DVD, this is probably a worthy upgrade to pick it up. If you have it on Blu-ray, I don't know if I would upgrade. I don't know if this is going to be too much of an upgrade to that, but you can get this pretty cheap now. I think I got this for under $10. The Big Lebowski, once again, classic. Joel and Ethan Coen. Okay, finally, my last disc here is a DVD set, and this can be had pretty cheaply now for what's in it. I think it's under $25. If you're a fan, he's back in the news now. He's back on TV now, and I'm talking about I think it's that right? Maybe that's not his name. Maybe that's Perry Mason. Perry Mason is back on HBO, but they kind of sexed him up. He's got a Perry Mason in name only. They brought him back to his roots in the 40s, so it's more like the books. Perry Mason was a series of books, then it was a TV show. Now it's and then a bunch of movies, and now it's another 8 episode limited miniseries. But I think older fans of Perry Mason, not their Perry Mason. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna check it out because I want to see it, but I'm not expecting the same thing. But of course, if you are, then throughout the 80s, from like 1985 on for 10 years, Raymond Burr returned to his role that he made famous, Perry Mason, in a set of like 30 movies. In this box set, there's like 30 films of Perry Mason. All the 2-hour movies he had throughout that 10-year period. Most of them stars also Barbara, not Barbara Reed. I think who Barbara Hale. Barbara Hale as Della Street is in here. Of course, William Hopper, who was the other attorney there, Paul Drake. He had died, of course, before this came back. So William Catt is in here, the greatest American hero, playing his son. And then Perry Mason is in 26 of these 30 Perry Mason movies. And they were pretty good. If you like the original series, if you like courtroom dramas, I love the original Perry Mason. Perry never lost a case, not very realistic. And of course, he always got the guy to confess on the stand. He'd figure it all out, and the guy would just, I did it, you got me. This is how I did it. Oh, I'll tell you how I did it. Yeah, okay. It's kind of corny, but it's classic. It's black and white. It's Raymond Burr, later went on to be Ironside. I love uh, those TV shows, and of course, you can watch it every day on TV. It's somewhere. And these telemovies were great. In the last four films, I think Paul Sorvino and Hal Holbrook stepped in because he had died, so they stepped in to finish the last four telefilms. And you can get this for way under $25. It's a nice box set. It's got I think 25 discs maybe in here, something like that. 47 hours worth of Perry Mason. If you like Perry Mason, the original series is available on the DVD, and you can get the movies for a really good price. You figure this is like under $1 a movie on video. So if you're a fan, look for it. All right, guys, that's all I have. Hope you enjoyed this look at DVD haul, Blu-ray haul. Hope you enjoyed me talking about some of the movies here, and hope you'll catch my next video when I do it to show you what I picked up next. Once again, have a great, great holiday. Stay safe. Don't blow your fucking hands off. Don't blow your feet off. Perry, don't blow your toes off, even though maybe you should. But be careful out there, and take it slow, and we'll catch you next time. Remember, keep trekking, keep reading, and I'm not even gonna say fuck Picard, but I mean it. Later, guys.